It's been around half a year since I made an Underrated PSVR Games video, but even at episode 9 I'm not ready to stop. There are still tons of games that I want to shed light on, so without further ado, let's get into episode 9 of Underrated PSVR Games. To start off, we have a Fisherman's Tail, which is a puzzle game from Interspace VR and Vertigo Games. This is a game that involves some of the most creative and mind-bending puzzles on PSVR, and is a joy to play from start to finish. The game has great pacing, you'll never be stuck on a puzzle for too long, and I found myself finishing the game in one sitting. Which brings me to the major drawback of this game, because it only takes around an hour and a half to beat. So while I believe the game itself is underrated, you might want to wait for a sale, unless you don't mind paying for a really polished and fun short puzzle game like this. Next up is Minotaur Arcade Volume 1 from the developer behind Polybius. This is a collection of 2 games including Goat Up and Grid Runner. Goat Up is a game that has you playing as a goat while you ascend a seemingly endless tower. You'll be jumping from platform to platform as you collect different items, avoid dying, and jump as high as possible. As for Grid Runner, it's a retro shooter where you're always shooting and have to destroy enemies and collect power-ups. Grid Runner has a ton of levels, and the more you progress, the crazier the game gets. The levels will start to change in both design and depth, and will only get more difficult as you go along. Both of these games are addicting and a blast to play, and just like the developer Llamasoft's other games, Minotaur Arcade mixes awesome retro visuals with crazy effects and depth in VR. So if you enjoyed Polybius or want a cool mix of retro games in VR, this is a great game. Bound is a game I've talked about with high praise in the past, and it's a game I'll continue to talk about with every chance I get. In Bound, you follow a narrative that switches between both the real world and a fantasy world. This is a third-person game that mixes platforming and a dancing mechanic that helps you avoid enemies. The game is only around 2 to 3 hours long, but Bound is one of the most beautiful and unique PSVR games, and it's something I would highly recommend to anyone. Next up is InDepth, a game I was very addicted to after it launched. This is a roguelike game that has you exploring a medieval afterlife where your goal is to reach the end of each level, defeat the boss, and go as far as possible. But upon death, you'll be brought back to the very beginning. It's a difficult game that focuses on ranged combat, allowing you to either use a bow or crossbow. It's extremely addicting to try and get further with each attempt, and battle against others on the leaderboard. I'd highly recommend playing InDepth, especially when using the DualShock 4 controller. And finally, we have a launch title for the PSVR, Batman Arkham VR. I've heard countless times that Batman Arkham VR is an overpriced experience that's only an hour long, but I'm here to refute that. Yes, playing through Batman Arkham VR once is less than an hour long, but a lot of the fun in this game comes from getting 100%, because there are tons of riddler puzzles to solve after beating the game normally. This adds another few hours to the game, and it's really fun if you enjoy completing games or solving puzzles. But I have to say that this game won't wow you as much as me if you haven't played the Arkham games or aren't a big Batman fan. So yes, I believe this game is underrated, but you're not going to find as much value in this if you're not already a Batman or Batman Arkham fan. Also, as a side note, if you're into speedrunning, I started a Batman Arkham VR leaderboard a few years ago on speedrun.com, and now we have a small group of people that are slowly improving their times and trying to push the game to its limits. So if speedrunning this game sounds fun to you, definitely check out the link in the description. So those were yet another 5 underrated PSVR games. I feel like I might be bending the bounds of what underrated actually means, but I'm enjoying every minute of this series and I hope you're enjoying it too. If you did, join me next time for the grand episode 10 of Underrated PSVR Games.